go sit in on a spokesman, Julian Sprung. He's talking about skimmers in your tank. A lot of great information. Let's go check it out, guys. So you guys can see what's going on in this conference up close and personal. So let's go check it out.
You're not embarrassed to stand up and say whatever's on your mind about the hobby, about your aquarium, about your friend's aquarium. You know, this guy I know has this problem, but you know, feel free. Yeah.
This is a question about gobies now. Do you favor gobies for keeping the sand bed clean, or do you think you have to keep sand bed, so it's a bad idea?
All right, that's a double question. You really want to know whether I like sand beds, and if I do, whether I like gobies for keeping it clean. Yeah, I like sand beds on the bottom of reef tanks. I think it's perfectly fine to run a reef aquarium without a sand bed. If you go visit some of the shops like Worldwide Corals in Orlando, where they've got a million different corals in the tank. There's so many of them, they're just growing on the bottom as well as on the rocks and all over. You can do that if you have sufficient water flow to prevent detritus from accumulating. It's a perfectly valid way to maintain an aquarium. I really love the look of sand in the aquarium. I think a nice coral bombies with a big sand expanse on the bottom, that looks very natural. It really is like capturing a slice of nature. As far as the question of using gobies as sand sifters, they're not the only ones. I like sea cucumbers. Gobies certainly, they're the sand sifting stars. I don't generally use sand sifting stars, but they are useful. I wouldn't recommend them for a small tank. It would be for a bigger tank.
So that would disrupt the levels of bacteria?
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. The disturbance that they do is so, on the time scale, so slow that it's not disrupting it. Now, if you got in there to maintain the sand bed with a grapple vac, that's disruption. You can do that for a small portion of the sand bed, maybe every year or so, but you never want to grapple back to the whole bed, maybe 10% or 20% at most at any given time. All right. Another question.
I have a question for Julian on my tank. And one of the areas that you flag savings is on the reduction of skimming time. Do you have any experience where you run your skimmer maybe 40 hours a day instead of 24?
Okay. Did everybody get that question? Yeah, so he's looking at the electrical consumption on his reef tank. And I just think it's so amazing that the hobby has evolved to this point where people are counting kilowatts. I think that's really great. That's really great. Again, this is a multi-part question you have. Part of your question, even though you didn't state it directly, was, what's my opinion about running a protein skimmer 24 hours versus a smaller portion of the day? When I use a protein skimmer, I typically run it 24 hours. I don't consider turning it on and off, but it's absolutely a valid thing to do. Now, the question is, why does the skimmer consume so much electricity? Because nowadays most skimmers are using submersible pumps, which are energy efficient. How many watts are we talking about? Do you have a giant protein skimmer? Yeah.
4 foot.
What's that?
4 foot tall.
4 foot tall. With how many pumps does it have on it?
One big one. Like a DC pump, 3 horsepower.
It's a 3. Okay, well that's significant. A 3 horsepower pump, you would consider that. What I find, protein skimming, I don't know if you've noticed it, but the skimmers seem to crank out a lot more gunk at night than they do during the daytime. So if I was going to run a shorter period, I'd run it all night, and then you could maybe reduce the skimming during the day. That's possible. So have you looked at other ways of saving electricity? I mean, one of the easiest ones is to look at your whatever pump it is that's returning water to the tank from the sun. Probably should be as small as possible. As far as the circulation within the aquarium, you can have either closed loops or have power heads in the aquarium to achieve your water flow.
I've done all of that.
Yeah.
I've reduced the big return pump down to a minimum flow.
Right.
Now we're looking at the cost of running chillers.
Yes.
And the skimmer.
Right, and obviously, you know, the chiller expense can be offset through evaporation in the tank. So if you have a high efficiency air conditioning system where the aquarium is, one that is extracting the humidity, and then you can increase evaporation, of course that will increase how much you need to top the tank off. But that, yeah, but that's not a high power consumption issue. You know, you can look and see whether your electricity cost of running your air conditioning system is equal to, less than, or greater than your cost of running a chiller, and decide which way where you want to focus your attention on getting the aquarium to the temperature you want.
We have been able, where it is too hot, you have to have chillers.
Yeah.
You just can't run an AC fully. That helps a lot. You get up to next time.
Right.
Your chillers won't kick in. But I'm not getting about 3 horsepower chiller.
Wow. So where do you live?
In Barbados.
In Barbados. And home air conditioning, you're not using that, or?
My tank is in the galleries outside.
Oh, got it. Okay, so that's not an option.
No.
Yeah.
So we do.
Well, you have.
Some.
Well, right. Your other option is if you know, I mean, I don't know the building structure, but if you have a way of sinking a water vat or tank, a plastic Nalgene large aquarium in the ground, you could use the ground for your cooling. Basically, make your sump 3 or 4 feet underground.
We tried that as some theory, but we just got to go on degree change and temperature.
Yeah, fascinating questions.
Hey, Julian, you're just such a veteran and icon for the hobby. I was wondering sort of what's on your radar, what's interesting to you nowadays. I feel like with anything, whether it's technology or techniques, or there seems to be paths and maybe what's interesting to you.
Well, I get so busy in my day-to-day of what I'm trying to accomplish in producing products, it's hard for me to follow the, what's the word? All the things that catch my attention that I want to follow up on. So what I find is nowadays I tend to be following up on things that have interested me for a lot of years, so they're no longer the new interest. It's funny, I have a bucket list of things, but one of them is what the gentleman was just asking about, is becoming more energy efficient. Let's see, the talk that I'm giving this afternoon about palletoxin is something that I became interested in, it was in the early 2000s, so roughly 14 years ago or so. I started saying, hey, something's going on here, and the hobby also was waking up to this subject of the palletoxin. And the reason why I'm giving that talk is because I had an experience with it, and the experience not only brought home how important it was, it revealed some secrets that I didn't know, nor does the scientific community, and I'll talk about that rather than spoil it here.